Tuesday night, Cincinnati, Hal Merrick has 3 printouts on his kitchen table and a red pen that's nearly out of ink. 3 numbers circled: 3.9%, 4.7%, 5.5%. And on the laptop, paused mid-sentence, a fourth, 7%. Same question on all four different answers. In about an hour, he'll stop caring which one is right. What stops him is a sentence buried in the research. And it comes down to 3 words: 9 out of 10. Marlene sets a cup of coffee down by his elbow. You've been at this 3 weeks, Hal. He's already run it. $1.1 million at 3.9, 42,900 a year. The same money at $5.5, $60,500, $17,600 a year, sitting in the gap between those 2 lines. That's a trip to Italy, or no trip to Italy, every year for the rest of his life. That's not what cracks the night open. Around 10 o'clock, Hal quits hunting for the answer and starts hunting for the definition. 3 weeks chasing a safe withdrawal rate. He's never once checked what the biggest name in retirement research means by the word safe. He finds it 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 safe outcomes end with the retiree gone and the money still sitting in the account. Hal reads it twice, then he pushes all 3 printouts to the side of the table. Because the fight he's been having for 3 weeks, 7%, 3.9, who's right is the wrong fight. By midnight, he'll have the right question written on a legal pad instead. And your own version of that, $17,600, is sitting in the gap every year, waiting on it. Hal isn't lazy about this. He's an engineer, 38 years designing bridges outside Cincinnati, retired 6 months ago, and he's done the reading. Each printout on the table has a name on it. The first one is Bill Bengen, The 4% Rule, 1994, the study that half the retirement articles in America are quietly quoting. And in his 2025 book, A Richer Retirement, Bengen raised his own number to 4.7 and said that with a broader portfolio, you could go to 5 or 5.5. That's printout 2 and printout 3. The one with 3.9 circled on it is Morningstar's 2026 research. Same report says that with flexibility, 5.7 is on the table. The laptop is the fourth voice, a fellow who goes by Uncle John, likable, plain-spoken, made a lot of sense. Uncle John says you can pull 7% in the good years if you're willing to trim in the bad ones. And then in a tab, Hal opened 3 days ago, never closed, Wade Pfau in Forbes. 7% might be optimal for a flexible couple with a social security floor. That same 7% fails 57% of the time if you run it rigid. Same number. Optimal, or a coin flip that lands wrong more often than right. Depending on a question nobody stated out loud, Hal knows enough to be thoroughly confused. His son Kevin introduces him to a financial advisor. Nice guy. Certifications framed on the wall behind him, charges 1% of assets under management. Hal looked it up. That's the industry median, according to Kitz's research. Nothing unusual about any of it. The advisor listens, nods, says, for your portfolio in this market, 3.9 is your safe number. Hal drives home and nothing feels wrong. The advisor didn't lie to him. Hal went and verified it. 3.9 traces straight back to that 2026 Morningstar report, to a real methodology run by a real team with real names on it: Christine Benz, Amy Arnott, Jason Kephart. Nobody made that number up. So what's bothering him? Hal keeps a small notebook in his shirt pocket. Since he retired, he's been writing down the miles he drives each day. No reason. He just likes numbers. Marlene has never asked him about it. That night, he writes something else in it. 2 good engineers, 40% apart. That's not one of them being wrong. He's seen this before. On the bridge job, 2 careful people, both credentialed, both showing their work, handing you numbers 40% apart. When that happens, it's almost never that one of them made a mistake. It's that they're solving 2 different problems. So he opens Excel, builds tab 1, 3.9%, inflation adjusted, 30 years, $1.1 million, first year withdrawal, 42,900, plus his Social Security, $2,900 a month, $34,800 a year. Total first-year income, $77,700. He and Marlene can live on that comfortably. He runs the 30 years out. The account is still green at the end. He should stop there. He doesn't. Every bridge Hal ever signed his name to stood up through storms, not because he had a number, because he always knew what the number was measuring. He stares at the 3.9 and he starts asking a different question. He reopens the Morningstar page, not skimming this time. He's after one sentence what the word safe is actually doing inside the phrase safe withdrawal rate. He finds it. Written by Christine Benz, Morningstar's Director of Personal Finance and Retirement Planning. He reads it out loud to Marlene slowly. Benz's standard is that if the plan finishes with at least 1 penny left in 900 out of 1,000 Monte Carlo runs, it's a 90% success rate, 900 out of 1,000. Marlene puts down her sewing. Say that again. He reads it again. Then he walks her through the machinery. They run the retirement 1,000 times. Different markets, different sequences, different luck. If in 900 of those 1,000 runs, you die with at least a penny still in the account, the plan gets stamped safe. Read that again. The plan is called safe if you die with money still in it. 9 times out of 10, he writes it on the legal pad so he can sit and look at it. Block letters. Safe equals 9 out of 10. I keep the money. That is not a knock on Morningstar. That's their published definition, stated in the open, and it's precise and it's honest. Every Monte Carlo tool I've ever seen reports success the same way. The question Hal never got asked is whether that's the outcome he wanted his life pointed at. Michael Kitces has already run the arithmetic on this. Industry researcher, publishes his own work, shows the sheet. He walked the classic 4% rule through every 30-year retirement window since 1926. Every single one. More than 90% of those retirees finished 30 years with more money than they started with. More than 2/3 finished with more than double. And the median, the middle outcome, not the lucky one, the middle ended with 2.8 times the starting balance. Hal puts it on his own sheet. $1.1 million times 2.8, $3.08 million, $3 million sitting in the account on the day he dies. Not the best case. The middle one, on the historical record, Hal looks up. Marlene is watching him. If I do exactly what the advisor recommends, he says, the single most likely thing I leave behind is $3 million. Not the disaster, not the jackpot, the middle, Marlene says. So who's that for? Hal doesn't answer. He thinks about it in the car the next morning, and it isn't a conspiracy. It's arithmetic on the advisor's side of the desk too. If Hal runs out of money at 86, that advisor gets a phone call he will remember for the rest of his career. If Hal dies at 86 with $3 million he never spent, nobody calls anybody. There's no complaint form for the trip you didn't take. One of those two failures has a name, a number, and a lawsuit attached. The other one has none of the three, so only one of them gets modeled. That's not a bad man. That's a scoreboard with one column. He goes back to the spreadsheet. Something else is nagging at him now. That 3.9% assumes Hal spends the same real dollars at 89 that he spends at 65. Inflation adjusted, dollar for dollar, same travel, same dinners out, same car, every 7 years. Every year. All the way to the end. Hal has lived long enough to know that isn't how people age. His father quit taking long road trips at 78. His uncle Vernon quit fishing at 82. Neither one ran out of money. Their knees ran out first. So he goes looking, and he lands on David Blanchett, head of retirement research at Morningstar at the time, now at PGIM, published in the Journal of Financial Planning in 2014, won the Montgomery Warshower Award for it the following year. Blanchett measured what real retirees actually spend, not what the models assume, what they do, tracked over years through the Health and Retirement Study. The result, real retirement spending adjusted for inflation, drops about 1% a year, every year, compounding downward. By 84, the typical retiree is spending roughly 26% less than they were at 65. The model that handed Hal 3.9 assumes the exact opposite. Flat forever. Hal scrolls up to the assumptions row on tab 1 and finds the line. Spending constant real dollars. He goes to circle it in red, and halfway around, the pen finally quits on him. The coffee's gone cold. Marlene hasn't said anything in a while. Hal says it mostly to himself. There's a name for what I've been doing. Blanchett's own paper calls it the retirement consumption puzzle. He calls it a puzzle on purpose because the economics can't explain it. Why would people who can afford to spend less than they can afford? Not because they're broke. It's that a future you haven't spent always feels safer than a future you have. So you clamp down on it without ever noticing you're clamping. He picks up the notebook, the one with the miles in it. There's a risk. The industry has a name and a number for sequence of returns risk. My advisor talks about it. Uncle John talks about it. There's another risk on the other side of the table. No name, no number, no cell in the spreadsheet. The risk of dying with money you never touched and years you can't get back. A risk without a name doesn't make it into the model. And if it isn't in the model, only one side of the scale gets weighed. 9 times out of 10, the plan is safe. 9 times out of 10, I die with the money still in it. There's nowhere on this sheet that says wrong in the other direction. Marlene says, Hal, it's not your fault you didn't see it. He nods. It's what every brain does with a future it can't picture. You grab the most specific number on the table because a specific number feels like control. You're not stupid for trusting it. You just have to name the thing before you can take the wheel back. He doesn't sit there with it. He opens a fresh tab. 2 scenarios, side by side. Not safe versus risky. He types the header himself. How much do I die with at each withdrawal rate? 3.9% median ending balance per Kitsis, about $3.08 million. 5.5% Bengen's 2025 number, for today's conditions, a substantially lower ending balance. And the Italy trip happens at 68 instead of someday. On the legal pad, under the block letters, in block letters again, how much can I withdraw and be safe? New question. How many years am I underspending to buy safety I already have? 3 weeks of 7% versus 3.9, and the fight was never about the answer. One thing left. He goes back to the paper. That 3.9 assumes his portfolio has to carry his entire life on its back. It doesn't. His Social Security started last week, $2,900 a month, $34,800 a year for as long as he lives, with a cost of living adjustment on top. That's not extra money. That's a floor. He and Marlene sit down and total it up. House, paid off. Both cars, paid off. Groceries, utilities, insurance, property tax, the whole survival bill, everything they'd need to keep the lights on and eat. It comes in under 34.8. Social Security by itself covers the survival number, which means every dollar out of that portfolio is lifestyle. Not eating, Italy or no Italy, the grandkids flying to Ohio, or Ohio flying to the grandkids, the room addition, or the same kitchen for another 15 years. The question that ate 3 weeks of his life, what percent can I safely withdraw, was a question about lifestyle the entire time. He'd been answering it like it was a question about food. He shuts the laptop. He still doesn't have his final number. But for the first time in 3 weeks, he's got the right question. 3 weeks later, Hal goes back to see the advisor. Not to argue. He likes the man. He brings 1 page of questions. Top of the page. In the 90% of scenarios where I don't run out of money, what's the median amount left over on the day I die? The advisor sits with that a second, and that's a really good question. Let me pull it up. He does the work right there while Hal watches, and they both learn something. He's not a bad guy. He just had never been asked. Almost nobody asks. Hal thanks him. They agree to run 2 plans side by side next month. Saturday night, back at the kitchen table. The spreadsheet has gotten simpler. 2 columns now. Column A, what can we spend and never regret? Column B, what do we leave behind? Enough that the kids know we loved them, not so much that they wonder what we were saving it for. The number he starts with, 5.2%. His number for his floor, his house, his knees. not a recommendation and not yours. He'll watch the market and he's ready to trim back toward 4 if there's a serious drop in the first 2 years. It's never going to be perfect, but he knows what it measures. Marlene books the flights. October, Rome, then Florence. In the pocket notebook, under the last day's mileage, Hal writes one more line. Airport, 22 miles. If you're where Hal was 3 weeks ago, 7 tabs open, 4 different answers, the feeling that one more article will finally crack it, here's what he actually did. He put Social Security into the picture before he asked what % he could withdraw. If Social Security covers your essentials, that percentage isn't a survival dial, it's a lifestyle dial. And the number the models will let you take goes up quite a bit once you see it that way. He wrote out 2 scenarios instead of 1. I withdraw the low number and I die with X. I withdraw the higher number and I die with Y. Look at both. If X is more than double what you started with, then am I being safe enough was never the right question. He gave the second risk a name. Sequence risk is the risk of running out. The one on the other side, the one nobody sells a product for, Hal started calling unspent life risk at his own kitchen table. The trips you didn't take, the years your knee still worked. Both of them belong at the same table when you decide, not one on the spreadsheet and one in your gut. He got honest about flexibility. If you're planning to use a guardrail strategy, ask yourself something uncomfortable. 2022, your portfolio dropped 20%. Did you actually cut back? If the honest answer is no, guardrails won't save you. Take the lower fixed number and sleep well. And he checked the ruler before the number. Ask your advisor or ask whatever software you're using. When you say 90% probability of success, what's the median amount left over in those success scenarios? If they can answer, they've thought about it. If they can't, that 3.9 is answering some question. Maybe not yours. If this helped you see the ruler before the number, hit the like button. It tells YouTube to send it to one more person sitting at a kitchen table on a Tuesday night with 7 tabs open. Subscribe, hit the bell, and in the comments, answer the question Hal should have asked 3 weeks earlier. What are you measuring when you say the word safe? I read every one. This is for education and entertainment only, not financial advice. For decisions about your situation, talk to a qualified fiduciary advisor, a CPA, or the SSA.